Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are live on this Internet of Stuff and Things for a daily show. And it's currently just me, Memes. The link has been sent out to certain select privileged people, and we will see if they join us. I see we have D-Day Doug in the chat. I hear things are going a bit slow for you due to the movie theater industry. Dude, I'll be straight up. Before all this went down, man, I went to the theater. And I don't go to the theater all that often recently, unless I'm going with other people. That really hasn't been a lot as of late. But I saw Sonic the Hedgehog. Dude, I went to the fancy theater and shelled out almost $20 to sit there and watch one of my favorite animated blue hedgehogs zip and zig across the screen, along with an anthropomorphic fox. Sorry, spoilers. My apologies. No, dude, but I like the movie theater, and we live in an interesting time where we have a dynamic and everything where it's like, all right, you can pretty much watch whatever the heck you want whenever you want to. I mean, that's freaking cool. I still remember when Comcast came to the area and they upgraded to digital TV, and you see this channel guide, and then you get frustrated as all heck because you're like, wait a second, they have an on-demand function, but it's only limited. Why can't I just click and go to those things? It just seems so very intuitive. Now you can literally just click and go to those things and hopefully not get all these different viruses and everything. But I see you there, Optic Racer, along with Captain Morgan himself. Welcome one, welcome all. I guess MC is currently busy at this time. But yeah, so while I was busy dilly-dallying, I had read an article earlier, and apparently I don't want to actually have to subscribe to the Boston Globe, even though they've got a pretty good deal at $1 for 6 months right now. And the reason why I was looking at the Boston Globe and I wanted to share my thoughts on their opinion article, as I voice my opinion on their opinion article. Yes, that's a lot of O's. But I do think there is a difference between East Coast and West Coast liberal. Again, this is something my stepbrother told me, and he lives up there in Seattle and everything, and he freaking loves it. He's invited me out, and I haven't taken him up on it. Well, he usually has a summer block party and stuff. He says it's an absolutely amazing town, even though he's more of a conservative libertarian. He's just he doesn't go around and hate on other people. He just disagrees with them and stuff. And what he told me is a lot of characterization that we'll see, especially on this side of the Internet of Stuff and Things. A lot of folks kind of get painted with a very broad, we'll say very sharp brush at times. And are there cases of that? Absolutely. Absolutely there are. But the same when I'm very often arguing with other people, and probably a contributing factor of why I'm single as well, is basically when I have somebody like ex-Mrs. Memes, and she's kind of going on about, the Proud Boys are all Nazis. It's like, I'll be straight up. I went to a free speech event. The Proud Boys were there. Boston Free Speech was there. Dr. Shiva was there. I carried his generator back to the car. Yes, that is my claim to fame. But we were there, and it's like, all right, at least upon reviewing footage, one person said they identify as a National Socialist out of 60 people. I'm like, all right, so it's statistically, that's, 1.6% or so of the folks that were in attendance were technically National Socialists. You gotta that's the thing, you go by the facts. Do I think the vast majority of the people there were Nazis? No, I do not. I think those are folks that love their country, that believe in the First Amendment, and that's why I was there. I was there to honor free speech, but essentially making the argument to a significant other that, well, if those folks are Nazis, you're dating a Nazi. It's probably not the best thing, especially when you're with somebody you love and you enjoy getting intimate with them and everything. Basically tell them, your boy, not a good look. Not a good look there. And that's why it's like, all right, no, if I'm going to defend it on one side, you got to defend it on the other. Do I have my biases, my predilections and everything? Things that I personally prefer? Yeah. But I also understand it's like, all right, what I may prefer may not always be the smartest thing for everybody else. It is what it is. But after bloviating and becoming narcissistic, telling a story about myself that doesn't really have that much relevancy except for #deplore, basically they did cover what happened. They said there was violence. A couple of cops, they were shot. One is going in for surgery. Apparently, God willing, they do appear like they're both going to make it and everything. But as far as we know, there is a suspect in custody. From what I've taken from a number of accounts, somebody literally just rolled up and started shooting at cops. Screw that. I don't care who you don't just start rolling up and shooting on people. Those are freaking human beings. And what is it also doing? We're making everything political. Because everything apparently nowadays is political. Go back 10 years. 10 years. Somebody rolls up, shoots a bunch of... You're going to see condemnation all over the place and everything. Our brave women... Heck, go back even just like a year or so ago when they finally passed like the 9/11 like first responder bill and stuff. It frickin' took Jon Stewart, a Jew of not the highest vertical stature, to go in there and share his thoughts. Literally, he was told, he had a speech and everything. He threw it away. He just went off the cuff. Because that's when he's his best. Just when you can speak from the heart and actually communicate to other individuals. It's like, all right, we had all this stuff going on, and we can't even figure this out. It's like it's almost 20 years later. It took this long? Oh, speaking of taking long, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding there. Welcome, Moira. How are we doing?
Sorry.
No worries, no worries. That's the thing. It's like, I can just go on, and I can literally go on forever. I am one of those people where I will just keep on talking unless somebody shuts me up. But like you said, it's always nice to have other folks kind of bounce ideas off. It's kind of like House.
Indeed. So where are we at? What's happening?
So I was giving my opinion on an opinion article from the Boston Globe. I was going to share it, but apparently I've read too many articles. I don't feel like giving them $1 for 6-month access, even though it probably is actually worth it. And I was also...
I hate those sites that are like that. Like, you'll pay this amount to read this. I'm like, fuck you.
To be fair, $1 for 6 months for the Boston Globe,
Still.
that's actually not bad. It's like, because I think about all the stupid things I'll spend $1 on, and I'll pay more than that to literally kill myself with cancer sticks. In retrospect, and again, Moira, it's like I fully do this. I literally just smoked a butt right before I went on. Well, that's why I say what I may personally prefer and what may be generally better for society may be two different things. And I think we need to acknowledge that rather than it seems like folks are saying, well, this is what I believe, so everyone else needs to do this.
There's always got to be a compromise. Like, I'm in my house, so they can go fuck themselves. But if I'm walking through a crowd, like at those little outdoor like art festivals and stuff, if there's a thick crowd, I won't light my cigarette right next to them.
Well, it's
But
general courtesy.
A few feet away from people, then I will.
Oh, and Moira, you have a fan. Okay. But the thing is, and I actually want to bring up something that you had mentioned before, actually after we had got off stream yesterday, basically about opinion pieces.
Oh, right.
And I was sharing the example. It's one of the things we're in right now is rather than going through everything to kind of like explain where we're coming from with individual people, because the thing is, even if you do that, the thing is, as soon as you come across somebody else that you haven't had that conversation with, you kind of have to do it again, and you have to do it, and it is exhausting to have to do that. And I think that's why literally some folks make videos, and even if folks don't make videos, they'll follow different folks, like a Tim Pool or frickin' Jordan Peterson or whoever it might be that happens to have a generalized philosophy and says things that they typically agree with. And when I had sent super chat to Tim Pool, and he had actually addressed it on the Timcast IRL podcast, which, you know what, Tim, man, dude man works hard. He works like 7 days a week. Power to him. I do think he's being influenced by his audience, but then again, we all are. I think he is actually realizing that now. But the thing is, I asked him, I'm like, would you be willing to lead the charge by labeling your videos op-ed or opinion? And his response was, well, all my videos are my opinion. And your response when I had asked him, like, well, why don't people do that?
Then label that. Like when you're putting up a video, put my opinion on, and Meghan Markle or fucking whoever, like my opinion on. Like it's not hard to add a little extra in that, you know.
Well, but the reason why people don't want to do that is,
They want you to agree with them, and you want to be right. But that doesn't rule it out, though.
well,
It
they
doesn't
want,
mean your opinion is wrong.
well,
And
they
it doesn't
want,
mean that people won't agree with you. There's nothing. It won't hurt for you if you put your opinion out there. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It could be fact. It could be.
right. I think the way
It
you
doesn't
would
mean you're wrong.
you would put it yesterday was, well, they want their position to be a fact.
Yes, they do. Everybody does. I do. You do. People watching want to be right. Everybody wants to be right. Nobody wants to be wrong. But it doesn't mean it. But
I mean, well, there's nothing wrong.
My opinion on it.
Yeah.
People who agree with you are still going to agree with you.
Yeah.
But you're not misleading them by putting it as an opinion. In fact, you're doing the very opposite.
I think that's one of the big things we're running into right now is the crossover, because at least the opinion article I was getting ready to share before I used up all my free views, it was clearly labeled opinion there. And I think that is very important, and very often we have news which has a decent bit of, or even very heavy flavoring of opinion,
Oh yes,
and it's
absolutely.
not
It's hard to give news
labeled.
without putting, at least if nothing else, the tone and inflection of what you think, even without saying the words. Like mine's opinion, and like I mean, I'll put up the articles. So you'll see what I got it from. So you'll see what's actually said, and then everything I say, you can tell I'm either reading what the articles say, and then I'll tell you, well, I think this is what I think. I bet this, and this. I don't act like I've got proof on shit because I don't.
Well, that's the thing, being honest about things. And a lot of times, like, people aren't necessarily just going to just outright lie and everything. They might not mention it. It's like, well, did you do this or that? Because, like, I've had times where it's like, I just happen to be around for a particular stream or something. I'm seeing folks getting accused of all these different things. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden someone posts a very short clip, gives their editorial on Twitter, and then basically, oh, well, this is a terrible person. I'm like, I don't think that's how it went down. It's like, I actually think I got yelled at for calling this particular individual out and just asking them, I'm like, have you considered just logging off the internet if you don't want to have to deal with this? And they seemed to get decently offended. So I went back and I watched, and then I sent timestamp, because what the individual said, I'm like, well, did you watch the whole stream? They're like, I watched enough. Well, you watched enough to apparently get you angry.
There's only very few instances where seeing a little bit is enough. Like if someone goes on some kind of racially charged tirade and they're calling somebody names, there's no context where that's acceptable, like
Right.
socially acceptable.
Well, that's what happened to Kramer.
That wasn't socially acceptable.
Yeah. Oh, no. He was heavily
I
ostracized.
think
Yeah.
the entire hour and a half he was on stage to know that 5 minutes was just embarrassing. Like
Yeah.
no. There's certain context, but if someone is, well, this person said such, but they only show the part where they're saying this part and left out that they were quoting someone else, that would be out of context.
Well, it's deliberately misleading, and I mean
Yeah.
it's so easy to do. And so I mean, I do this for so many of my different videos of just live streams I'll be on for, like, my Dragon's Bite series. It's like all of a sudden I'll be over there and I'll just be doing my thing. Other folks will there, and the way I'll mash it up, it's like, well, that's why one of my great enjoyments of life is basically memeing the fandom menace into a bunch of furries.
Into
I-
what?
Or memeing them into a bunch of furries. Because I'm a scaly, and I'm projecting upon other people on the internet.
Oh, why?
My-
I know you memeing them. I just didn't know you memed them into what. That's the word.
Oh, well, I didn't really have to do it. They kind of did it themselves because they all dressed up in animal things on a onesie stream once. So I just took clips from that, and it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing.
Well, it doesn't hurt to shake people up now and then. Like, don't necessarily go too hard at any one person. I mean, it looks like you got a vendetta, but a little jab here and there, just to let people know, hey, don't take yourself so damn seriously.
Well, right, and that's one of the big things that I just see. It's like, as long as you can poke fun at people, it's like you don't have to be hateful and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes people think hateful is funny, and it's like, no, hold up. My mom used to say, a joke's not a joke if you're the only one who finds it funny.
Yeah, that's a very unfortunate situation. But I also just want to say shout outs to Jelly Duck, Hail Jelly Duck, along with Joe Franco, one of my patrons. Shout out to my patrons Joe Franco and Dave M. there.
Hey
But
guys, hey,
this this is one of the things that we kind of just there's just so much right now where folks are just almost arguing over everything. But you know what?
they absolutely are, and it's like, don't get me wrong, I think this all started a long time ago. Because I used to frequent bars quite often because I was quite the drinker back in the day. And one of the most common things, I've always liked having a conversation about serious things, which I've never been good at small talk. You usually like, so, like, what's your opinion on the Middle East crisis? Like I don't know how to have
I
small
mean,
talk.
it's not like it's a divisive conversation starter for some
Right.
folks.
But we've always been told, like, don't talk about politics or religion. For decades and decades, we've been told don't, and now we've gotten to a point where we don't know how to have that conversation.
Well, because we haven't had it, and we have the internet, and the internet's let the genie out of the bottle. Because what were some of the most popular things on like YouTube and stuff? Well, talking religion and politics.
Right. Actually, more politics. I haven't really seen a whole lot of people talk religion.
Yeah, I think this was a big thing because I was within the greater skeptosphere of the skeptic community, and as far as I understand, that evolved. A lot of the folks with it came from the greater atheist community because it was explained that some folks were saying they're like, well, YouTube was getting very religious, so we needed to help take care of that, and then atheism plus kind of grew out of that, and then there was a splittering and
conversation going on a channel. They can turn to another channel.
Right. Well, we used to have a lot of communities that were kind of isolated and stuff. I am still kind of the opinion that the greater skeptosphere kind of caused one of the first adpocalypses, because I'm not sure if maybe they just want to blame PewDiePie for it, but I still remember the stream where V was literally like, I am monetizing tragedy and stuff, because there was an incident with a former community member that had basically shot and killed one of his girlfriends. Like, yeah.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah.
And they accuse you of monetizing your tragedy.
Well, it was a monetized stream.
Well, no, but what I'm saying, that's what you were accused of. So are these same people going to take to Twitter and get on to every single inker and news person who goes out and talks about all the tragedy that goes on in the streets, the homelessness, the car accidents, because that's how they're making their money?
That's a very interesting question. Well, I'm not sure about some of those exact situations. But some of the things, some of the things coming out of, let's say, like a CNN or even a Fox News, some of the things, if they are on YouTube and they are bound to the same terms of service as everyone else, I mean, if they are promoting content that may inflame people or move people potentially towards violence, I mean, can't that be struck down?
Well, that's a very tricky thing, because you said just now everybody argues over everything. Everybody's so sensitive now that you almost can't without getting someone upset. Like, so we gotta go back the other direction with this. People are like, oh, I think it's too much religion on YouTube, which I actually haven't even seen. But it's like, okay, that's protected speech and everything. Go to another channel, you don't like it. You know? They're upset that, I mean, if you sounded overly happy about the tragedy, that would be in poor taste. But you're basically reporting on something just like any reporter would do. So are they going to go and talk shit to the news anchor at Fox because, they're doing like round the clock coverage about, hey, 2 cops were shot last night, and this and that. Like, that's part of what reporting is putting news out there, and you want to be the one that tells the story. I don't like discussing the stories that like every other channel's already fucking talked about for a week. No. There's times I'll be up at 3 a.m. and be like, screenshot that looks interesting. Screenshot that looks interesting. And part of me does hope that I talk about it before another YouTuber does. I'm not gonna lie. And yeah, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily glorifying it or enjoying it or advocating or promoting it. I'm simply just want to be the first one to say, hey, this wild shit's going on, y'all. You know.
I think one of the things that we run into, and you hit on one of the big topics, is just if you're talking about just news in general, it's news very often can be kind of fleeting. I mean, you can talk about something whenever you want,
Well,
and some folks may come across it, but a lot of ways you get traction is a story breaks if
life
you
moves
happen.
really fast.
Well, exactly. If you're able to get your views and your take and the information you have out there first or very early on, you are going to tend to be prioritized in everything. So that equals more clicks, more views, and essentially just more money for just folks in so many different industries. But the issue you also run into is you should be reporting facts.
Well,
Or
yeah,
if you're going to give your opinion, just
right
make
now
sure
that
it's
you think this
speculation.
type of happened. This theoretically could have happened. Like,
Right.
yeah, exactly. Here's a couple of scenarios where what might have led to this. You know, that doesn't hurt to do that. It shows that you have an opinion and you're able to think. So there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean people won't go, hey, I think that person's on something. It doesn't mean you're going to lose any followers. And you're
It's
less likely to get sued because you're not stating it as a
yeah.
fact. You're
Right,
saying, hey,
right.
this is what I think happened. You can agree or you might not.
And this is one of the things that I have noticed because a lot of folks, especially here on YouTube and the internet stuff and things, you'll see folks saying, "Well, the media's lying. The media's lying." And I'll go through and I'll kind of like listen to some of these segments, and I'm like,
They can
"Okay,
lie by omission.
well, that's one of the things. There are certain things, and I've even heard this on NBC, which I'm like, all right, kind of like when they had to land that plane and stuff, because an individual seemed to kind of be getting violent and stuff like that, and they didn't really. They just mentioned that it happened, and according to Tim Pool, there apparently is also video that I believe I heard the audio of the gentleman saying, "Please accept Jesus and acknowledge that he maybe he was a wee bit heavier in melanin than some folks thought." All I know is that maybe this individual, or I thought Jesus the prophet of Nazareth, yeah, I thought he would look like a lot of folks from that part of it. Yeah, I mean, that's an irrelevant fact in this case, but it's like something wasn't mentioned that some folks may have found relevant. Some folks may have found it colored another way. I just found that very
That's
interesting.
why I like video because, like, my opinion doesn't really per se matter. You're seeing what everyone else is seeing. You're seeing person A coming up to person B and their interaction. Unlike, you
Yeah,
know,
we don't even agree on that sometimes. When you get like
well,
that
that's
video
true.
from the White House, it's like Jim Acosta. He's pushing that young lady, the White House, who was running like the press thing that day, her arm away and stuff. One angle, it's like, all right, looks like he's lightly doing it. The other thing, it's like, depending on how you look at it, it's like, oh, it looks like maybe he's kind of getting rough with a young lady there. And just shout out to Titan as well from potentially Planet Bob, as Professor Jones, my old Earth science teacher, would say.
Right. Well, that's why you can't look just at his actions. You got to look at her reaction. See if she goes like this and looks alarmed or startled. That will also be an indicator of what the situation is.
I think I generally am of the mind you should be able to talk about pretty much almost anything that you
Just try not to be
typically
a
want.
dickhead. Yeah.
Well, it's not necessarily even what you say; it's very often how you say it. Because I just see different folks, and it's like, and that's one of the things. If you're just doing just a text-based thing, especially stuff like Twitter or even Facebook at a time, but especially Twitter, when you're talking about limited characters and everything, if you're trying to talk about a big, giant, grand scale, multifaceted issue, to do it in 280 characters, well, it's like you're removing a lot of human flavor from the equation. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I happen to like YouTube, because it's like, I say stupid stuff all the time. If you look at the transcript from some of these videos, it's like some of the words that come out of my mouth, it's just,
Hey, I said that Prince Harry wasn't actually Prince Charles's son about 30 minutes ago.
well, I mean, I'm not
Like,
sure we have any pertinent data. I'm unsure if they've done an official paternity test or anything. I've heard
oh, they
varying
probably
views.
did, but they would never admit it.
Well, I mean, it's also a family. It's also a family matter. That's the thing.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's
doesn't.
exactly. I mean, that's probably why he was able to marry Meghan Markle without any trouble, because they had no plans of him ever ascending the throne, ever.
Well, I mean, if it's also the woman that he loves.
Well,
I mean,
no. That I'm just saying, like,
Oh, a lot of folks were not fans of her at all, for all different types of reasons.
Right. Queen Elizabeth's cousin, I think. Oh, I think her brother or her cousin. He married a common woman. She was called a commoner, American actually, and he was king. I think only for about a week, and renounced the throne so he could marry her. And that
Power
was
to 'em.
the 40s or 50s. It had to be the 40s because Queen Elizabeth became Queen Elizabeth in 53, I think. So her Queen Elizabeth's mother ascended to the throne when the guy abdicated.
Okay, because I remember the Queen was served in World War II.
Yes, she was about 18 or 19, and then 1953 ish, 54 maybe, she took the crown.
And one of the other things I kind of want to touch on, and as we're basically explaining how we apparently are memeing ourselves into oblivion because of lack of a lot of human context, especially like when you're a human being and you adapt over thousands of years. It's like, all right, we often live in small groups where maybe you come into contact with 50, 70, maybe 100, maybe 200 people on a regular basis that you kind of keep track of, and now we're very often in big concrete jungles and stuff like that with tens and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of folks going
Right,
by
yeah.
with the internet where we have anonymity and can basically just
I
do
did
whatever
not
we
have
want.
anonymity. That's one thing I like when I had made my Twitter originally. I had not anticipated all this. Yeah. The original reason I actually made my Twitter in the first place is because a guy I was dating at the time had a Twitter, and I suspected he was cheating on me, and so I made a Twitter so I could like check it out and see
Counter ops.
he was doing some suspicious shit.
Hmm.
And I never got rid of it, so I just kind of kept it, but didn't do anything with it for a really long time until about 2 years ago. Then I started actually using it and everything. So, like, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like so many of these different platforms and everything. Folks have accounts. Dude, like I had an account on YouTube from back in like 2009 and stuff. It's
Right?
like, yeah, no, I got like an OG account, and
That one.
well, and then I forgot my password for like a decade, and then I recently had remembered it this year, and that's where I usually upload most of my like workout videos and everything. So it's like, oh, I remember like back in the day. It's like so and so. So I'm like, why am I getting
I
all these
started
people
back when I
subscribing to me? It's like I'm doing this for a video log. This is for me and everything. It's like, oh wait, and then I was offered partnership. I actually just got an email from I think YouTube the other day because they had invited me to the partner program way back in the day, and I just never opened the email. I opened the email I think like a year ago and then just clicked. I would be happy to accept, even though they changed the service. So I'm sure maybe I could wiggle my way into the partner program if I really wanted to be a dick about it. But it's like, no, dude, they set down a standard. It's like, oh, I
Yeah,
don't play by the rules.
moving the goalpost on that, and plus they take a large percentage. You only get little scraps of it anyway, unless you have tons.
It is such a convenient marketing model if you think about it, because marketing can be a pain in the butt. I mean, I dealt in direct sales and everything for a while. Sales can be vicious. It can be a pain in the butt. And the thing is, if you can do what you love to do, it's like, well, that's cool. And especially if you get
That's why,
compensated.
like I said, I just rather drop my PayPal link. If they want to give me money, they can do it that way.
Right.
And then they don't have to worry about like half their money going to YouTube because censors everybody anyway. Like I assume if somebody's like super chats or whatever, you're saying someone $20, you actually want them to have that $20. You don't want pay or YouTube to get more than half of that. Like that wasn't your intent.
Well, YouTube takes 30%, and there's a number of reasons for
Not a
that.
problem.
Well, that's the thing. If you could do like Streamlabs, like you said, PayPal, anything like that, Venmo, there's all these different options now.
Yeah.
And
That's why I really don't care if like they offer me monetization. I mean, I wanted to get to 1,000 subscribers just so I could like reach a goal and make it. You know,
Right.
that was really it. I never really had any intention of actually like getting monetized. It annoys me when they take away my watch hours, and I'm like,
it's on a 12-month cycle. So when
I
you
know, but
forward it,
last year they were doing it within 2 months.
it's
Of the video.
one of the things that it has done, at least that I've heard from folks that are monetized, is that when you actually do get like that watch time and everything now, the payouts actually seemed to be better because you did have a restriction on the number of folks. My big thing is if somebody had already been invited to the partner program, I'm of the mind that you should have at least grandfathered those people in.
Right, yeah, exactly. I heard somebody was monetized for like a day and then they took it back from them. They changed their policies. Like, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but they were
Hmm.
like monetized for like a day and they then got ripped out from under them. And I'm like, that's insane. Like,
It's well at that point, it kind of seems like you're as soon as you become a taker backer, folks don't take kindly to that. It's like Rugrats taught us this, like back like 15, 20 years ago. It's like you're a taker backer. It's like yeah, well maybe you shouldn't have given it in the first place if you just wanted to take it back. It's like I get
yeah,
it.
it's a really shitty thing to do because people tried really hard for that. Like me, I'm just kind of once I got to 1,000, I just slacked off. Like it's like I'm at I think 1,116 now, and the 116 like I only that I think that took like 3 4 months because I wasn't even trying. Because once I reached that goal, I was like, you know what, I'm not ready. I'm happy with the 1,000 I got. Cool. I already made the goal. Cool.
I think a lot of it also comes down to specifically what are you attempting to do because the YouTube
Honestly,
out.
I started my YouTube channel because I wanted to make movies and I wanted some platform to upload them to and have some people to watch them. That was really it. Didn't really care about going to Hollywood. In fact, I absolutely abhor the idea. Ugh. But like, just thought it'd be cool to make movies and see what people thought of them. And I ended up live streaming to find people and meet them, and then I sort of got stuck on that and kind of haven't got around doing the movie thing anymore. So I only managed to make two, and I was like, ooh, I'm not
Right,
making
right.
too long of a movie, so they're usually pretty short. But like, and I have an idea for one I want to do, but unfortunately, like my daughter seems very uncooperative and does not want to be in the movie, and I'm like,
I mean, so, I'm not sure the child labor laws in Oklahoma and everything.
she's
So
13, and I promised her like anime stuff for Christmas.
I mean, it sounds like you're kind of trying to bribe an actress. I mean, I'm not familiar. That's your personal relationship with your daughter there. Um,
There's nothing legal about having your daughter in a more or less horror themed movie. It's not even gruesome. It's more mind fuck. Like, whoa, how'd they get here? Kind of a thing.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure you should compel somebody to be in something unless I don't know. Hey, I mean that's all up to y'all. But
Obviously, I didn't compel her too much because she isn't in it and she didn't do it.
oh,
I
well,
said I can't get the movie made because she doesn't want to cooperate.
I mean, you could
I
get
didn't
a
say it. Of course.
replacement. You could find somebody. I don't know. So speaking of horrible things and terrible things going on in America, yeah, apparently the ruling in the Breonna Taylor case
Oh
came
my god, I
down.
need to take a bio break before we jump into that because oh my god, the whole thing's a shit show.
All right. You do that right now. We'll cruise through the chat as well. Hail chat, hail everybody. I think. Oh no, I've missed people. I'm such a terrible host, but well, these things happen. These things happen. Welcome, Bone. Welcome, Bone. I often will see you around these parts as well. But so I remember something about M&Ms. So apparently, I think this was about 10 years or so ago, but somebody had made a donation, $50,000 worth of coconut M&Ms to one of like the VAs or something. And I remember that at the time, and I'm like, huh, I'm I'm not sure I would ever buy coconut M&Ms. I'm like, really? I'm like, is somebody paying off Big Sugar? Did somebody owe it debt? Was there a sweet lucrative? Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I'm completely unpunny right now, but I had to. I had to. But then again, I look back at it as well. I'm like, well, if I'm hungry and there's food, I don't really care if there's coconut in it. I'm not allergic to coconut as far as I know. And in some cases, actually, well, maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Okay, I realize I just did a 180 in my own thought process right there. But welcome back, Miss Moira. Are we good?
I feel like a new girl. Ah,
All right then. All right, let's go. Let's pull up one of these articles here,
Anyway, the whole
but
Breonna Taylor thing, it looks like a mess. Like, it really does. Like, they're, like, the majority of what I heard was they went there looking for a guy, and most accounts said that the guy that they were looking for was already in custody. And then it became, then one source said that the guy was there, and I'm like, how do you make that mistake? Either the guy was there or he was in custody. It's one of the two. And like, if you think she has a part in this drug situation that they were claiming she was, isn't the normal thing to, like, I don't know, have someone tail her, watch where she goes, see if she does it, instead of busting in someone's door in the middle of the night?
I mean there was a warrant.
High risk that somebody's going to get hurt.
There was a warrant, but apparently, and this was described in the article. Basically, there was a no-knock warrant, as far as I know. I know Tim Pool has pushed back because apparently there are folks, and according to Tim Pool, even her boyfriend, whom did survive this incident, which we're going to get into the article in just a second here, which he's actually featured in. Basically, they had said that somebody had knocked, and according to the police, they said they identified themselves. So folks are saying that they likely did the knock, where they're like, the police knock, and maybe they heard who it was, maybe they didn't. According to some situations that I've heard, he said that maybe he thought it was maybe an associate or something, former associate, that was maybe coming to do him and his girlfriend potential harm. It's like, if all of a sudden folks break in to your home early in the morning,
It's the worst. I'm going to assume the
it's
worst they kick in the door. And
yes,
especially depending on what time of night, they possibly were asleep, so they're not pulling together and they're like, what's happening? So they may have missed the part where the person was caught. Like,
my thing is, I'm like,
I thought these people were up to something. I would just tail them for a while and see if I can catch them.
we had like 28 police officers, 28 FBI agents sent to Roger Stone's home to arrest him. I'm like, oh, well, I mean,
That's a lot of people.
all I know is, you see a situation like that, it's like, all right, he just came out and everything. Was that necessary? I mean, was there no other way? I mean, if you have a warrant or something, as soon as somebody opens up the door, it's like, hi, we're here. I don't know. I even know Rand Paul actually had introduced a bill, apparently, the Breonna Taylor bill. And it was basically to eliminate no-knock warrants.
Good.
He did this, and this is the thing. It's like the sheer fact that we don't hear stories like that, because very often, things tend to make sense to me, because I'm like, all right, if I was exposed to a lot of the same things that many other people are exposed to, I'd likely share a lot of their same views and stuff. Like, when you actually see what people are getting, like in their feeds, what they're actually hearing from their friends and people that they trust, it's like, okay, I can understand. I went down to Florida to visit my old man like 2 years ago, and he watched nothing but like CNN and MSNBC. And I ain't gonna lie, like, after a couple of days, it's like, I literally went outside for a cigarette, and I'm like, if a nuclear blast went off in the distance, it wouldn't really be that surprising, because I'm like, oh, it kind of seems like the end of the world right now, and it's like, oh, but the day went on. After I stopped consuming basically all of that content, I'm like, my anxiety levels went down. Well, maybe that in combination of cannabis as well, but these are probably corollary factors. These things happen. But the thing is, if you have that, it's like, all right, that makes sense why people are kind of going nutty bananas. Whereas,
But my issue, a lot of the issue is that these large protests aren't even organic. They're being stirred up, I think, to make things worse than they are. Now, don't get me wrong, it would help if proper accountability was done so people wouldn't feel the need to protest. Because, I mean, no-knock raids are a terrible idea. I mean, in general, just kicking in the door, because you said they knocked. Well, if it was a no-knock raid, why would they bother? Anyway, but it seems like a bad idea, because you're kicking in the door, and that's gonna scare someone. You have no idea what's going on. Like, were you even listening? Did you know if they were asleep or not, or this or that? If it, and like I said, like the story seems to be mixed up because one says the boyfriend was there, and another story, the majority of the story, said the guy was already actually in custody. They came for her, or came looking for him even though he was already locked up or some shit. And I'm like,
I mean, I really haven't heard really any accounts of that. I've heard that there's been disagreement whether she was basically shot while she was still in bed or maybe she was up. But one of the things I took away and what I noticed just from like a Facebook conversation is a lot of this comes down to it's like, okay, the facts as they come out and as we get evidence for them, they may be different than what we initially saw. And the sheer fact that if all of a sudden you're just like, see, look, oh, this was wrong. If you're coming off like that, it's like, well, no wonder people are going to think you're a jerk. And with all due respect, MC, that's often how you come across to me at times. That's all I'm saying. Because that's also the objection I've heard from a lot of my leftist friends. It's like, oh, well, why do conservatives have to be a-holes? It's like, not all of them are, but
right.
I see plenty of it. Dude, even when Scott Brown, my former senator, who I voted for Scott Brown, I actually voted to re-elect him over Elizabeth Warren the first time that she ran there. And he ended up losing, but one of my friends, just very, very left, very progressive individual, he went onto like Scott Brown's Facebook page or something. He's like, listen, I didn't vote for you. But you know what? I believe you ran a respectable campaign, and he got flamed to all hell from those people there.
Shit, like.
Well, this is a story he told me, like, probably, what was it, 6 or 7 years ago, when Scott...
No, that's you could blame somebody, like, dude, leave him alone, like, he just, like, how he feels, or his opinion, calm down.
Well, it's also anecdotal evidence, because it's like, well, this was also on, I believe, Facebook, so it wasn't necessarily like it was like Twitter, so it's like, these are technically supposed to be real human beings who are putting their lives out there for everybody to watch and Facebook and others to earn metadata from, because this is how the internet works these days. But the sheer fact that happened there, I remember that. And this is something that I keep into the context of kind of how I view things. So if I'm there with lefties and stuff, and it's like they start saying it's like, well, it's even when I said it's like, well, all Democrats should be basically this. It's like, no, I don't really care what side. If you're trying to promote violence, it's like, no, that ain't cool, man. But as far, I lost my train of thought. I forgot where I was going. I just went bloop, 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 beep, doop.
We were talking about Breonna Taylor.
Oh, right, that's right. Okay. Yeah, no.
Cops, only one was charged, and it was like it was the equivalent of reckless endangerment.
I believe one was indicted, but that was for firing bullets that went into an adjacent apartment. They were indicted on
like reckless endangerment type of situation.
Reckless endangerment because of the amount of shots fired. It ended up going into another apartment and could have potentially injured other folks in there. I believe there were either 2 and 3 indictments for that, but there was nothing related to Miss Taylor's.
Yeah, and the article says we're justified in return of deadly fire. Okay.
Right, because
what justifies it? Did she there was sure no mention of her having a weapon.
No. Her boyfriend. Her boyfriend basically had fired because basically you have folks busting into your home. Maybe they announced themselves. Maybe they identified themselves as police. I'll be straight up. My brother.
Shot her instead.
Well, the thing is, it's just, again, the officers said they identified themselves, and maybe they. This is why I'm all for like badge cams.
Unless they were sleeping in the living room when they knocked or identified themselves coming in the door, they might not have heard them in the other room.
I barely hear any time somebody knocks on my door, like when I'm in like another room.
There's probably a door being kicked in and ruckus. I'd shoot too.
Well, that's another factor. We're also one of the most heavily armed nations in the world, so these are other factors we need to account for. But
no-knock raids are dangerous for everybody, especially in the middle of the night. For God's sakes, good grief. The only people who kick in doors in the middle of the night are fucking criminals. Badge or not. If you have legitimate business somewhere, go during the respectable hours of the day, especially if it's a warrant and no one's life's in actual danger. They thought she got a package. Okay, well, first thing next morning, go knock on her door, hold up your badge, and say, "We'd like to have a word with y'all."
Well, my thing is, if you have a warrant,
Yeah.
as soon as that door
So
opens, it's like, okay, they can technically shove their foot in there and everything. It's like, do you have to do this? I mean, and even MC, I know I was kind of like bantering at MC a little bit, but even he kind of brought up on one of his streams. He's just like, there seems to be so many things wrong with this, and unless it's an
exactly, and
extreme,
so long to
extreme.
get to the bottom of it, and this is all there is of it. What about people who allowed the no knock warrant? They should be somewhat responsible for this mess as well.
That was one of the that was what I kind of wanted to bring it back to is the sheer fact that okay, somebody did okay this, a judge did approve this, and there are ranks within police as well. So basically the people that are in charge, they basically allowed this stuff to happen. Oh, look. We we have
What
we
up?
have we have a wild Chris. Welcome, my friend.
Sorry I'm late.
Oh, no worries, no worries. We were just
I would
bringing
like
up.
to.
It's okay, it's okay. Hey, better late than never. But
Seriously.
no, we were just discussing the not quite
Brianna
so
Hill.
finer points of no knock warrants and
I was listening before I got back and was able to plug in, but
I mean,
yeah, that's a complicated situation, isn't it?
it shouldn't be. To be truthful, it shouldn't be complicated. The reason why it's complicated is because they have a badge. If I had thought she had taken something from me and I kicked in her door, they'd have every right to shoot me and nobody would think twice. And if I shot her in her own apartment, especially when she wasn't even firing at me, someone else was, and I shot an unarmed person, I'd be in jail for so many things. The reason why it's complicated is because there's a badge, and that's where the problem is.
it's the topic of qualified immunity. And just let me just
Exactly.
interject this,
That
and then
shows
we'll go to
you're
Chris.
doing a good job and you're upholding the law. You shouldn't need qualified immunity.
Right, and that the argument that you had made, and when I had heard that yesterday, that was actually one of the best arguments I've ever heard versus qualified immunity. Because I'm like, well, the cops got a tough job and everything. I'm thinking life or death
Well, he
situation.
signed up
It's
for it. Everybody
it's
signed up for this.
it's
If her boyfriend is guilty of whatever they were accusing him, then, she knew about it. She stayed with him. Then she's at least an accomplice. Okay, fair enough. The cops, they know what they're signing up for, especially when you do a no-knock raid in the middle of the night. You know what can happen. You know the risk. You chose to do it anyway. You signed up to, son. And that's how it is. So why should one get qualified immunity and the other didn't? Honestly, I think the warrant should be, unless, of course, you actually believe someone's life is currently in danger, which, of course, then you don't wait. But, it was a package over some drugs. Yeah, the war on drugs has gone so well. Why don't you just wait till the next morning, 8 a.m., knock on the door with a couple of your buddies, hold up a badge and stuff so they can see it in the people, and this is Officer whatever the fuck. Can I have some words with you, please? If they freak out and they start shooting through the door, okay, then return fire. Sure, okay, fair enough. I'm not saying don't defend yourself, but you kick in a door in the middle of the night when people are sleeping, and nobody is sharp and on their game the moment they wake up. They're like, "What? What's going on? What?" And all they hear is ruckus coming at them. I would think a zombie horde or some shit was coming. I'd start opening fire too. Shit. Like, I don't know who you are at fucking 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know who I am at 3 o'clock in the morning. Are you fucking kidding me? Fuck that. Like,
I just want to bring up this one thing real quick.
My daughter's room.
No, Moira, I'm going to steel man your point. And this quote is attributed to Thomas Jefferson. And the quote is, tyranny is defined as that which is legal for the government but illegal for the citizenry.
I told you I thought it was Jefferson, but I wasn't sure. And it's not like Reagan couldn't have quoted him. So
Let's let Chris jump in and share his thoughts.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Well, I think the whole situation is complicated for these reasons. First and foremost, we live in an age where people are deciding what they think the facts are surrounding whatever sort of event it is. Like, as it happens, within 24 hours, people have decided what the facts of the situation are. What we've seen in the Breonna Taylor case is that the facts were not accurate up front, and that has changed a lot as stuff's been released. I read a couple weeks ago when they first released, some of the, I forget what it was, the indictments or whatever, but reading through, like, actually what happened and what the details surrounding that case were. And it wasn't just the police busted down some innocent person's door, busted in their bedroom, and just shot her in her sleep. That's what we were led to believe from the start, but it's a lot more tricky than that. Now, from a law enforcement perspective, I'm all for reconsidering how to do things, and I think that you're right that, when you're doing something when normal people are sleeping, I'm not a normal person, so I'd be up at whatever hour that was. But yeah, understandably, there's a discussion to be had there. Do you wait until 9 to 5 business hours? Do you follow someone and kind of learn what their
Well,
schedule
you can
is?
get them in
And
the act at that point. I mean, and then you have at least a solid case, for one.
but
Because
here's the thing.
Go on.
Not. But if it's just drugs or something, and like nobody's being kidnapped,
They found a
or
dead body in
road.
her rental car. What was it, a year
Huh?
before? They found a dead body on the trunk of a car that she had rented like a year beforehand. Did you know that?
Well, no, but if their warrant was about drugs and not
Correct. Correct.
I
but
mean,
what
I
I'm saying is
hadn't
it's
don't get
not
me wrong,
as
that's
easy.
still
heard
It's
about
not
that.
cut and dry. It's not as easy as just, oh, well, they got a package for some drugs, and then all of a sudden there was all these
Well,
warrants
that's
and
what the
stuff.
warrant's
It's a
about.
complicated
That's what the
situation.
document's about.
Yes. However, if I'm a cop going into a situation and I've got more information, and I don't know if that's the case, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I'm just saying that the way that this whole thing has been painted, are you having a hard time hearing me? Because I can change microphones. Give me 1 second here.
You sound a little far away.
Yeah. No, you just need to get a little closer. So, okay, I am seeing some things about this, but
All right, how about that? A little bit better?
Oh, okay, there you are. All right.
Awesome. Cool. Sorry about that.
I was about 10 feet, and I'm sitting here like trying to hear you. Like,
Awesome.
now, don't
Well,
get me
yeah,
wrong.
but
If there was a question about her having a body in a car a year ago, this is something that should have been handled properly a year ago, properly investigated. Either jail her or don't, try her or don't, something.
let me throw this in as well. The boyfriend and one of the other conspirators, I would have to go back, and I wish I had prepared more for this, but the actual right in front of me. But you can go back, and I can send I'll send Memes a link if you want after this, and you can post it as a comment or something. But their conversations from within the jail, like through the whatever phones they have through the jail, it's all recorded and monitored. The transcripts were included in this indictment, and I could be using the wrong term there. It might not be an indictment. Whatever it is, the evidence. The conversations between the boyfriend and I believe it was the other guy that was involved. And again, go back and check. This was not some innocent person who would just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is someone who was involved in crime. Definitely not a question, not a maybe they were in the room. This was someone who was involved directly.
They didn't have enough evidence to convict her over a body found. There seems to be question. We're supposed to be presumed innocent until proven guilty here.
I'm all for that.
Now,
What I'm saying,
last year a body and now this, yes, it does not look good.
What I'm saying is that these situations are way more complicated than the Twitter people within the first 24 hours want to believe. For a while there, what did we say in 2019? The Washington Post said, reported all the lethal force cases, and I think it boiled down to 9 or 10 unarmed black people that were killed by the police last year. And I think Breonna Taylor was the only one where it was yeah, this one really doesn't look good. The rest were okay, this person was fighting with the cops. They didn't have a gun, but they were going at them with the car, something crazy like that. They got shot. But now it's all this other evidence sort of comes out, and it just cloudies the water and stuff. And from the police perspective, yes, there should be reform. I'm all for constant improvement. I don't have the balls to be a cop. I wouldn't be able to go into those sorts of situations day in and day out.
Because I wouldn't be arresting nearly as many people as they probably want me to. I'd be quotas.
Well, you had mentioned the war on drugs being a complete and utter failure, and I'm 1,000%. That is 100%.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If they found a body in a car she rented, God knows, I'm really curious about that.
Yeah.
Fingerprints dusted, DNA. I mean,
this was not someone just selling a dime bag of weed or something.
Either have her stand trial and her be found guilty or not.
Yeah.
But if you're there because you were tipped off that there was a package delivered, then that's what you're there for. Unless you think the body is arriving in a package.
No, I don't think it had to do. I don't think it had anything directly to do with the body that was found in the rental car.
Well,
however,
in there with because they're going in the middle of the night. You do this because you're trying to catch people off guard. That's not always a good idea.
But this was also, they had warrants on like multiple locations at the same time, did they not? They had multiple warrants for multiple locations at the same time.
I heard they had a warrant for the boyfriend. That's all I heard.
The other addresses that were involved as well. They had, been following this stuff.
The best I can deduce from what I've just generally seen, because I seem to be locked out of the New York Times article, is basically Breonna Taylor at one point, she had rented a car. Apparently she was letting her boyfriend, which was the individual who had shot at these officers after they busted through the door, there was apparently a body found in the truck, at least according to these comment sections and stuff. Again, we need to see more verification. But if that was the case, if this individual is being monitored, again, we're arguing about systemic problems. And to bring it all the way around to the point that I just initially wanted to make, just about a Facebook conversation I had between two individuals that have known each other for freaking like 20 years that actually had a very vehement disagreement on Facebook. I watched that happen and was actually over this situation in this case, and they went through it, and by the end they're like, you know what, we have very substantive differences. The young lady whom one of my friends was also arguing with was basically like, listen, just the way you came off, it did sound condescending and everything. And by the end they're just like, all right, we went through this, we obviously disagree, we're not going to be able to change each other's mind, you know what, let's get together and just catch up or something sometime. And that's what gives me faith in humanity, because if folks actually feel like somebody's coming from a good place, you can actually get to the point where you agree to disagree. And you know what, if you believe in something, fight for it, fight for your positions, but do the best job you can. Try to get as much information as you can. Try to understand other people's sides. And you know what? Are we going to agree with everybody on everything? Oh, hell no. We're all individuals.
But that's what makes the system work. I mean, you've got multiple perspectives, different ideas, and...
Well, I think we all agree the system itself, the quote-unquote system,
could
use some updates. Could definitely use some updates.
Perfect, but it's...
Okay, I want to deal with the chat here, because Gilkey is saying that... the cops should not be basically judge, jury, and executioner. MC is saying, so your solution is the cops should also be pop-up targets and victims first. No, but there's a way this could have been avoided. I mean, if you could take your tongue off the boot for a second, bear with me here. Again, if they have credible evidence enough to get a warrant, all they gotta do is wait for them to leave the apartment at the very least, because then they're not on their terrain anymore, because they know if they got weapons hidden in the apartment, they know where stuff's at.
Well, that also leads into, okay, if you are going to do this, and if you did find a body in a trunk of a potential suspect, then you're thinking, okay, then maybe this person would actually be armed. Is this going to be likely? Should we necessarily go in here guns a-blazing? There are other apartments, or is that when, especially if you have plainclothes officers, the thing is, if you're going to do SWAT-like actions, why aren't you going in there with SWAT-like armor and stuff like that, where maybe you don't need to fire all these lethal... And again, that is my particular opinion. We are arguing over a lot of specifics, whereas I think we're also conflating a lot of other cases that have happened, that people have brought up as well. So if a lot of us believe the system could do better, how would we improve it?
I'm trying to get to that.
Okay, Moira, finish your thought.
But all they gotta do is, catch her coming down the stairs on her way to the corner store in the morning or whatever. Have 4 or 5 of your buddies in different spots, kind of circle her, hold up your bag and be like, we have a warrant to check your apartment and place you under arrest. She didn't come prepared. There's no weapons, no place to hide. She's out in the open. Take her, search the apartment.
Memes, let me ask you I don't know if you can hop on the computer and check this, but I believe that there was basically warrants for I don't know if it was 3 or 4 different addresses, and they were going to be executed at the same time. So I think the goal wasn't to catch this one person as they come out of their apartment. It was, we're going to go in at the same time so that no one has a chance to, hey, guess what? The police just showed up. You better empty out the
person arrested and cuffed. They can't call anybody. You have to give them their call within 24 hours.
Yeah, but they don't necessarily know where the person might be. I'm just guessing that may have been part of what it is. We know that it's one of these 4 addresses, the person or the drugs are going to be found, and we've got the warrant to search all 4. We're going to do them all at the same time so that there's no, overlap. There's no, the neighbor calls and police are on their way. You do it all at once, then you really you eliminate some of that risk. If you do them individually, then you're just chasing from one to the next, and they have time to. So look into that. I don't know if you can bring it up on the computer really quick, but that was my understanding, unless I'm mistaken. It was not something where they could have just stood around and waited for that individual to come out of that particular apartment, because the warrant was basically to do all, 3, 4, however many it was, at once at the same time. So that's what I'm saying. It's not easy. It's complicated. I'm sure that there's reasons why the police do things that way. I don't necessarily think it's the best way to do it.
It's very tactical in that if you're going to go into a situation,
policy, just like the George Floyd thing, if they're following policy, like holding someone by the neck, if they're following policy, then are the cops really to blame?
You have to hold them by the neck, actually.
But if that's a safe and normally secure way to restrain someone who's putting up that sort of a fight. What's that?
The cops were standing around keeping other people away.
Well, now we're going down a whole
the difference
road.
between legality, the difference between legality and morality can often be very different, and then we also delve into potential ex post facto things where if something is legal and the person does get off, and we are morally outraged, then it is up to us and our elected representatives to change the law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Go on.
First off, Bernie loves using the term armchair, so I don't know what armchair he's sitting in, but I assume he's sitting in an armchair just the same. He's just rooting for the other team. Secondly, Sith Lord here says the Floyd overdose. All right, supposedly he overdosed with fentanyl. If I was doped up on fentanyl, how the hell am I going to be in any condition to fight a cop?
Did you watch the video from before the original body cam footage? The entire thing, the 11 minutes, whatever it was before?
Oh, by the way, hey, gamer, hey, Sith Lord, welcome everybody. I realize I've been sitting back a little bit there as well as Hail Thomas, Hail the Guilt Man, as well there. Just to give my input, and I'll let you two go at it. As far as I have heard, and you know what, I haven't watched all this and everything about Mr. Floyd, but apparently, according to some people, they said that maybe he had some illicit substances on him, and then when the police were coming around, maybe he tried to swallow it, which, in some people's opinion, may have potentially led to an overdose. I tend to think that maybe we would see more of that on the specific autopsy. I have heard some people say that, but at the same time, it's like, okay, was that potentially what led to his death? Maybe it was. All I know is when it gets to the point where when somebody's like, this man has no pulse, and you continue kneeling on a man's neck for a minute after he is legitimately dead, I mean, that's where I think so much of the moral outrage, it's like, the man is dead. Yeah. The man is literally dead. It's like... So you two go ahead. Go on. Let them fight.
I agree with that. Yeah, if the guy has no pulse, you should try to do life-saving measures. I mean, it's not like the guy's going to get up fighting anyway. I mean, if he does have fentanyl in his system, dude is probably not in any condition to even get up.
Well, I ain't a law enforcement expert. Sorry to cut you off, Chris. But in some of these situations, we're hearing it's like people saying that they can't breathe. And it's like, all right, I'll be straight up.
That in the car.
No. I hear you, man. But I'll be straight up. When I used to wrestle, they told us, like, if you can say you can't breathe, or if you can talk, you can still breathe. When you can't breathe, you're literally like, because it's like, all right, when a choke or something becomes a choke, which you're not supposed to do in wrestling. No. But let me just extrapolate, because I've heard these in several cases, and just if I'm just looking at a pattern or something, I'm like, well, what ends up happening? It's like, well, some of these individuals, they are put in a high-stress situation, and then whatever confluence of reasons it might be, whether it's police involvement, underlying preconditions, or something like that, these folks saying they can't breathe, and very often you have some form of just bodily stress-related thing, whether it's a heart attack, a stroke, this, that, heart failure. It's like, all I know is if my heart stopped working or something's feels wrong, all I know is I might not know exactly what it is because I'm not a doctor, but if it feels like I can't breathe, I'm probably going to say I can't breathe. And I think in some of these situations, perhaps going the medical route and something, be like, dude, man might be having a heart attack. Maybe that's a better route. Is that legally the route that the police need to follow? Apparently not, but if we truly want to help adjust the system, help fix the system, help make it more just and equitable for folks, and make sure it is equal justice under the law, If there are ways we can make improvements,
Yes.
why the hell not?
Yes.
Okay, you two fight each other.
Fighting. We're discussing. We're trying to solve the world's problems.
Yes.
Solve problems. Go.
Well, I think the war on drugs, first and foremost, if Trump would, if he would deschedule marijuana, remove it from the list of scheduled controlled substances, whatever that works, I think that would be a tremendous win all around. Because number one, he had said that he would leave it up to the states to decide. So if we decriminalize or just deschedule it at the federal level, let the states figure it out. They can raise tax money. They can do it if they want. They can not do it if they want. People can choose where they live based on that if that's what they want to decide to do. So that's first and foremost. It's
I
about
agree.
freedom, liberty, personal choice, and obviously a bullshit war on drugs that is not based in reality. That's number one. Number two, that would reduce the number of interactions between the police and just regular citizens, people who are just maybe selling a little bit of weed to help make ends meet, or hell, if they want to make an entire business out of it, go for it.
It's not a national emergency.
What's that?
I said, I agree. Weed is not a national emergency.
No,
Nobody
it's-
died from it. So
No, I mean, if more people smoked weed, probably be better off. I mean,
Democrats dropped a measure to decriminalize marijuana until after the election.
they dropped that. I was reading an article last week or something that it was something that they were discussing. But what a shame. I think that it would have been I think Trump's still going to win. I think that he's still going to perform overwhelmingly good with minority communities who he would be. You would think he wouldn't do well, but I think he's going to do really good.
oh, he
But I
didn't
think
have to do much. He just had to let Biden talk. That's about all. Like,
pretty sad, huh? But I think that would have been a tremendous win.
I don't know if he needs. I don't know if Biden needs to be on a registry or just be in an old folks' home or both. Like this weekend,
It's sad what they're doing with him.
I actually feel kind of bad for him at this point. I'm just like,
Yeah, because it's transparent. We can see
I mean,
exactly what's happening.
His son is involved in his own racketeering bullshit, criminal crap.
Yeah.
That's a whole other fucking mess right there. But yeah, Trump basically just has to sit there and just try not to say anything stupid. He'll pretty much win. Like, oh my god.
I think Joe is. I think he actually probably feels some fault in the fact that this is the thing. I mean, even when President Obama was reelected, I remember Joe Biden was getting out of the motorcade. He was walking along energetically, and they were like, is this Joe Biden positioning himself to show that he's not an old fogey and he's going to be the next president of these United States? And I'll be straight up, if Joe Biden had a run last time, I could have voted for Joe. That's the thing. I think he let his time kind of pass, and now he got to the point where it's like, well, you're the only real Democrat people that people really recognize nationally. So it's like, he didn't run last time. I understand. He lost his son. He made a personal choice. I can respect that. But now I'm pretty sure, just in my opinion, and I've had this conversation with folks, I don't think he wants to be there. He told us
I don't
he's...
think he knows what he wants. I think half the time he's coherent and half the time he's not. I mean, have you heard this man talk? I feel bad for him. I can form a better sentence.
I don't think... I'm not a doctor. I don't think he's the same Joe Biden from like 10 years ago or maybe even 5 years ago.
Up here looks like it's been pulled back a little. Like, I think they try to make him look a little less old, thinking it might help, but that's not going to help any senility that it's set in.
It's come on, man. We don't know that.
Have you heard him talk? That's
I've heard words come out of his mouth.
Yeah, it's word salad.
Have you heard President Trump in some of these situations as well? Again, I understand the point that you're making. President Trump himself, again, sorry to be ageist, but he ain't a spring chicken either.
Trump would not try to tell people they weren't black.
Well, I mean, that was, that was not a good look. That was not a good look. I think that made a lot of folks probably go, oh, well, at least from some folks I've talked to.
That
and
was definitely reigned supreme. I was like,
that was extremely demoralizing, bigoted, and some folks would view as completely racist. Is it? I mean, probably.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of racist to me. I'm like,
has the melanin levels to decide who gets to be.
You're basing somebody's immutable characteristics on what they're going to believe. I mean, that sounds like a load of BS to me.
You're free to think what you want, but there's some things you just don't say.
He to be fair to VP Biden, he was in it was like a morning show with Charlemagne the God, and they're kind of having a bit of banter, and he's trying to be. Do I think he was necessarily fully serious about that? No, I think he was trying. I think he was attempting a joke,
Don't
which
joke like that.
if you're the only one,
Sorry, you don't joke that way.
well, that's the thing. If you're the only one laughing, I believe a wise woman once said that, yeah, it ain't funny.
I think the guy interviewing him was kind of like, and trying to like overlook it, but I think even he was like, fuck.
Well, he's like, well, that I don't know about. He's like, no. He's like, well, I'm curious about what you could do for the community.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, can we just get a good answer here?
The only reason is something like that, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. The only reason that I would even go down the whole racist road is just because of how hard the left and the Democrats push where everything is racist. All right, you want to say everything is racist? That's racist. I mean, normally I wouldn't say that's racist. Maybe a bad choice of words. I get the joke, but like, I don't know. It's the pot calling the kettle black thing.
Inappropriate. It's at the very least grossly inappropriate, and I mean it's like watching like an old person try to use the word fleek or lit. It's like, oh, don't fight, no, oh.
Fleek? I haven't heard that for a while. I just want to point out, I totally
trying to relate, and it looks embarrassing.
I agree with Ken's statement there. Can't we all just eat, drink, and be merry? I think people freak out way too much, and there's always going to be endless debate. Riots, corruption, it's all weak game to me. I support that stance, sir. We can do far better.
I finally agree with MC. Presidents don't do anything for the community. Best they can do is get in the way, or out of the way. Yeah, honestly, that reminds me of something I saw some time back. That the government will break your legs, sell you a wheelchair, and then expect you to be grateful for their help. Like,
I mean, again, Joe, I mean, that's basically what we kind of all just said, and it is. I feel bad for the man. I feel like he feels like he has the duty to do it, and it's like, it almost reminded me a little of like.
You can't even read teleprompters correctly. Like, people try to speak into his ear to help him, and
dude, I remember when he was trolling President Obama about a teleprompter because he was up giving a speech and one of the teleprompters got blown over by the wind. He's like, that was the president's teleprompter. What will he do? Because Fox News and Sean Hannity have been saying, his teleprompter, Obama, and they were going after him so hard, and he was joking about President Obama, and that was funny. That was a human Joe Biden.
Knocked over.
I'm not saying Joe Biden is not human. He might be a furry. I don't know these things.
Still can't make a coherent sentence. That's not good. How is he going to make decisions and decide whether or not to press the button if he can't read a simple sentence off the teleprompter?
Conspiracy hypothesis here. If Joe Biden was a furry, what would his fursona be?
I'm sorry?
If Joe Biden became a furry, what would his fursona be?
A puppy, so he could have all the little kids come to him and visit.
Do you like puppies? Chris,
that's good.
Chris, what animal persona would he have?
I have no idea. You would said a word, fleek. I don't even know what that is. Like I'm young, but like I'm
or something, or like on point. I think
I'm not hip with like.
I think my eyelashes are on fleek, so I assume it's like on point and good.
Okay, but the whole furry thing, like I mean, I more or less know what you're talking about, but that ain't my bag. So
like a puppy or a teddy bear, so all the children would want to come touch him.
What would he be? I don't even know. Yeah, I guess a dog. That way you can sniff.
Yeah.
Fleek. Extremely good, attractive, or stylish.
I knew it was something positive. I just
see? And now you see. I'm going to be the third here to just straight up come up the rear and be like, yeah, I would say a dog as well. Kind of maybe a Scottish Terrier or something like that. Just kind of like one of those dogs that'll just kind of look at you and just be like, they can still give you the eyes, but they can nip and stuff.
Oh my God, Ken, how could you fuck up a steak? Really? You fucked up a steak. Now it's well done. It's an edible.
I used to like my steak tips well done.
If my steak is not mooey a little bit, I might as well feed it to the cat.
I would also eat them with ketchup.
Here's what you do. Get yourself a sous vide cooker. It cooks it for a long time at a low temperature. You can dial it in precisely to a fraction of a degree. That way you never overdo your steak. You just finish it off in a cast iron or on the grill.
Today
on the Memes Cooking Show.
Dude, I mean, Food Wars is one of the minor properties I would like to get and up and running at some point. Just because I
Let's
do
talk
it, it's
about
like
that.
I will frickin' like go to town on food and stuff. It's like I will argue that to all hell. I mean,
I'm about to make
we
a mukbang video in a minute. If y'all don't quit,
wait, what?
a
Oh,
mukbang video in a minute. If you don't quit,
that's right. I need to make the memes of mukbang channel. I got the memes of ASMR. Apparently, somebody subscribed to it. I'm like, wait, I didn't subscribe to it. I need to
That's
put up
funny.
content.
That's awesome.
All right, so
Eat as much food as they can in those videos. So I was thinking that if I do the video, I'll have like food set up, and then like when I'm done, I'll like stop it, and then I'll just press record when I'm hungry again.
I don't think the goal of the channel is an eating contest. I thought it was just
You see those
to.
videos? Yeah, kinda.
Oh no! Some folks do. Is there competitive eating? Oh, you bet there is. I remember watching those hot dog competitions, which apparently
Chestnut.
a small Asian men seem to be extremely good at that sport. Apologies for my racism, but all I know is
They
I
have
saw
discipline.
I saw them freaking winning, dude. And it's like, to be fair, it's like I don't think I could eat that many hot dogs. It's like I'll eat a lot of
Yeah.
pie.
That's a lot of nitrates. That's a lot of leukemia right there. I'm just,
Well, you also have the technique. You would dunk the bun and stuff like that, so you're adding like the fluids and everything, and it's not enjoyable. No, see, I thought a lot of folks just watch those mukbang videos because I thought that was their thing. They liked watching people eat food.
yeah, I heard it's popular because a lot of people don't like to be alone and they want to feel like they're eating with someone. Plus,
Oh, I mean, I'm sure that's the audience, but I also thought Rule 34 applied.
well, also there's probably people who have like an attraction with people's mouths and like cigarette.
Oh no, oral fixation. No,
Yeah, that's the word
I mean, I'll be straight up. I don't mind pretty girls watching them eat food. I mean, I would watch you eat food.
Anywho,
I don't hear many people here objecting. That's all I'm saying there.
well, I'm trying to fight with Chris, but so far I don't. There's nothing. I
I'm
wanna
sorry,
fight.
I made things awkward. That's what I do.
So far, I've agreed. I mean, he doesn't sound as aggressive as I do, but I don't really necessarily have an argument with anything he's really said so far. And like something I'm not sure about is because I'm not sure. I can't argue it if I'm not sure. I can
Oh,
say
and
I have-
hail Roger as well. My
and I can throw it in because I haven't heard that.
the dueling video I rants with Roger. He covers some of the news and stuff like that. I believe he's actually publicly an actual broadcaster and stuff as well. But like he'll actually just talk news and stuff like that. Like I'm pretty sure I give far more opinion than he does. So I know he covers a lot of that different stuff over there. But yes, I apologize that I had mentioned him like a couple of weeks ago. I was coming up with my dueling video, which the introduction is done. It's so much fun, and now I just need to finish filming and putting it out because, well, timing and everything. And all I know is I feel like it would solve so many problems. And the terrible thing is, my initial reaction is this is a terrible idea, but I pitched it to a lot of folks within different communities that actually seem pretty smart and very often very moderate. And their response after they just take a moment to think about it might work. And I'm like, I haven't really heard many folks just come on and say, well, I'm like, this sample size is continuing to grow. I'm like, maybe it is an answer, because if offense is one of the big issues we have, people being grossly offended about so many things on this internet stuff and things, it's like, what do? Well, we cancel them. We go after this. We go after this. Well, those folks, it's like, dude, we had an established solution. Like, if somebody offended you, you pulled out the glove, you did, I do not condone violence, but at least proverbially, historically, you would demand satisfaction. You challenged them to a duel. Basically, because you were so offended, you were literally willing to put your life on the line for your honor. And we all know, everybody that are bringing up all these issues, they're obviously willing to put their life on the line. Nobody would lie on the internet of stuff and things.
That's kind of where the issue is. We kind of forgot about the innocent until proven guilty, and we go for witch hunt.
Did we ever have that?
I'm a little guilty of it too, but it's usually the opposite side.
Have we ever have an innocent? I realize it's in the Constitution and within the legal framework, but pretty much any time I saw somebody accused of something on the news, it just always seemed that, like, just in the public's mind, like they were just guilty, even if they end up being found.
Well, that's the problem, though. Like there's a difference between putting the news out there, but there's a tricky border between being able to, have the First Amendment for free speech and to give people the news without somehow inflecting one way or another whether or not this person is guilty. And it brings an issue because it also could.
The terrifying thing is when MC and I agree on issues, I think people should be terrified because there are some issues where just we both want, we should have a constitutional Congress. It's like I agree with that.
Beard hair, if you don't let me finish my sentence.
My apologies.
Meow. Anyway, putting people on blast, putting their face out there and what they're convicted of, and even in the wrong tone of inflection in what you say and reporting the facts or whatever, or opinion, could mess up their ability to have a fair trial, which the Constitution promises us. Which is why I cringe every time I see one of those publications at a convenience stores that show you who got busted this week and what they're charged with. Because we don't even know if it's legit they actually had it. But that might mess up them getting a fair jury of their peers. Because how can you miss it when you look at the news and look at Twitter? You can't help but have already heard some talk about it. So how can you have an untainted jury pool with things like this? So there is a problem we have in America with that. Because people are so into getting the scoop and getting the story, and getting those clicks and getting those views, that we are possibly damaging people's right to a fair trial. And this is a serious problem I think we need to find some way to fix without hindering freedom of speech and freedom of press. There has to be some gray area in there. Your beard hair is now safe.
No, I think that definitely people need to slow down and we need to take a breath, gather the facts, let the process work itself out. There's a whole trial process where all the evidence is collected and displayed, and that's really the ideal way.
So often, and Camilla Harris is an example of this, of oftentimes prosecutors hiding or suppressing evidence in order to get the conviction. So part of the good thing of having the news is if the news is going to get some information, then they should at least get the fair amounts of both sides of the information, not just, hey, this person was arrested because they were found with a gun in their car. It doesn't mean they had it. Their passenger could have had it and they didn't know.
Yeah.
That would be a totally different scenario right there.
Yeah, technicality is like the gun maybe was unloaded, it was in the back of the car, but
life in prison and not.
Yeah.
And so
I dislike very often where it's like, okay, if there's also a controversial thing about whatever situation there was, it's like, oh, look at this person's past. Oh, look at all these terrible things that they did. Now, if they were related and that's a chain of evidence, like if you're doing horrible things to children and you have a history of doing that, it's like, well, that seems to make sense. But so many characters, and you know what? Some of these things, might they be certain factors? But at that point, I mean, unless it's directly related, isn't that just an ad hominem attack? We're attacking a person's character, not the actual situation or arguments of the situation itself.
Well, a person's character can give you at least some indication on whether or not they're capable of something. So again, it's some kind of real tightrope you got to walk on something like this.
But
like,
when that becomes a focal point.
They talked about him holding a woman at knife point 20 years ago. It doesn't mean that he's necessarily the same guy now. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. Don't know. But that's the police officer who was dealing with him probably didn't know that. I mean, if he did, his job is to detain the person, cuff them, throw them in the car, and to take them to jail. Not to stand on them for another 9 minutes after they're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard to go back and I mean, it's easy, and I think you alluded to this earlier. It's easy to be like a Monday morning quarterback when these police things come out, and you're watching the body cam footage. And, you should have done this. We could have done that. You get all the evidence after the fact, or at least more. But when you're in the moment,
before the fact.
What's that?
Well, you can't have it before the fact.
No, but I mean, for example, if smoking is bad, who said that? Instances where the police have to make a split-second decision, and I'm not saying
9 minutes is not split second, baby.
No, but if you go back again and watch the entire beforehand and watch other videos where they try to restrain someone without using excessive force or whatever, and it
Well, that's why you
backfires.
escalate the situation a little bit. Like if they're punching you, one of your buddies takes him out back of the
Yeah,
leg or
it can.
tases him. I
Well,
mean,
that's the problem. We have
I've seen videos where it
escalation.
goes from like a 1.5 to like an 11, right? Like that.
but no,
You know,
no, but people should not worry that every encounter with the police is going to end up with death.
they
Because
don't.
very
They
often we
don't. It's a
hear,
small fraction. There were between 40 and 50 million civilian police interactions last year. 40 and 50 million. Of those, there were 999 instances where the police used lethal force, so just under 1,000 out of 40 to 50 million. And the overwhelming majority of those 1,000 deaths by police justified. Overwhelming.
justified should have been that, not death. 'Cause I'm pretty sure they're dead.
Well, this is where the
But-
importance of universal badge cams come in my
Yes,
opinion
I
here.
love that idea. I'm so down for that.
It protects everybody. It protects citizenry from their civic rights from being infringed, and if they are, they can have it out and they can go after that police station and everything. And it protects the cops as well from false accusation.
Absolutely. Exactly. I think dash cams, body cams are fan-fucking-tastic ideas. Absolutely.
Sure.
I am so for that. I couldn't express.
Here's another one I think would make a big difference, teaching people how to interact with the police safely. I think that of all the
Bingo.
videos that I watch on YouTube and videos where it's people having bad interactions with the police, the common denominator is always that they're arguing, they're trying to fight, they're trying to weasel their way out of whatever it is, whether it's searching the car or getting out of the car. They try and fight it on the side of the road. That's not how you do it. And
Actually,
especially
yes.
you don't.
Yes, it is, and I'll explain to you why.
I'm
Your
all
First
ears.
Amendment rights are important. Your right to against illegal search and seizure, absolutely. Because if you've had people in the car, for instance, and someone stuck something stupid underneath your seat from the back seat, and you don't know it's there, you could go to jail for one. And you may not be able to, until like they lift prints, don't know if you had anything to do with it or not. And secondly, it shouldn't even matter. Your home, your personal papers, all this are supposed to be private unless a lawyer, God bless it all, a judge can have sufficient evidence. This is why, for instance, like if you get pulled over and you refuse a search, they have within 24 hours to issue a proper arrest warrant, because if you try to get one right now, you could drive off and leave. So that's an issue. But the Supreme Court has also discussed that there should be a time limit on how long a routine traffic stop should be. Because, you basically kind of take a gander, make sure there's no weapons. Like in the state of Arkansas, because there's a situation I know, and I'm trying to help someone fight a case in Arkansas, actually. And this comes into play. That's why I was extra hold up. Anyway, so my friend was driving a U-Haul truck. And as you know, the design, they got the cab here. And then the trailer is completely separate encased area. It's not like a van where you can look down and see into the back. So anyway, so he was driving this vehicle. He was going to go see a friend of his in Arkansas. I don't know where. Doesn't even matter. Anyway, so he's on the road, and it's a reasonable sized U-Haul truck. So, the side catches the wind pretty good. It's like a fucking sail. A semi-truck zips past him, and so it causes him to go like this slightly. Kind of veers off, because they have those little brrr strips right there. Like, there's no, without hitting
They went up to the median
cop
and
pulls him over. The cop, of course, hey, can I search your vehicle? And he's like, search the cab. And he's like, why? He goes, well, I smell marijuana. And he's like, I have a medical card. And I checked, and out of 36 states, 16 states recognize each other's medical cards as legitimate, which includes Oklahoma and Arkansas. So his card is legit there. I checked that. So he's like, well, I have a medical card, so that might be why you smell some in the vehicle. And he goes, oh, that looks like a meth pipe. It's not. It's one of those glass marijuana pipes. It was not a meth pipe. It wasn't. They even took that off the charges when they tested it and realized he was telling the truth. But the cop was like, well, I want to see what's in the back of this truck. And he's like, there's no reason to. And he's like, well, I'm searching it. And searches it. And apparently, there was a false wall there. And all hell broke loose after that, apparently.
A false wall in a U-Haul truck? And what was
not-
behind that false wall?
You don't want to know.
I do. I'm very curious.
Close to 500 pounds of marijuana.
Well, I mean, that seems to kind of be, yeah,
Ding, ding.
yeah.
My friend is not exactly a carpenter.
Oh, and the previous renter just happened to forget that 500 pounds of marijuana, or
was arrested and didn't tell anybody it was there, possibly, and didn't want to rat himself
sounds
out.
like there might be more to that story. But my point being, you don't
But
fight with the cop on the side of the road. If it was an illegal search,
the average is supposed to be, unless you actually find something legitimate, it's only supposed to be about a 15-minute stop, unless you find something legitimate. But he had a medical card. He did not have a meth pipe. He had no probable cause. And the traffic stops took about 40 minutes before the search was engaged. So
I mean, there's definitely.
My friend even said you can bring a drug dog to come sniff if you want. He offered that, and the cop would not take it. He said, "No, I'm searching."
Okay, it's like Chris said. It sounds like there's a lot more to that. I mean, we'll let the judicial system play it out and everything. I mean,
I'd be curious what the laws are as far as even a medical user operating a vehicle under the influence of marijuana and does have a pipe in the car.
They didn't ask him if he was under the influence. I mean,
that may have been the implication, though. I mean, you can't drive around even if.
Amount on him.
Well, the big thing that Chris was kind of bringing up is just the ability to actually interact with police. Because when I was getting my real estate license before, the person running the class happened to be an attorney. And what she told us was, she said that she thought basically most folks, basically pretty much everyone should have at least 1 year of basically law school to basically just know what your rights are, know what the laws are, because a lot of folks, they don't know. Because Moira, I was telling you, I basically got my buddy arrested like back in like high school and stuff because we were being dumb kids. And of course, I went back to a party that I even said the cops will be here an hour. And then since I had hormones and infatuation, I wanted to go back, and we got pulled over. And yeah,
law from Harvard, it'll do different segments of law school, and one of the ones I was doing was actually civil rights and constitutional law, and you can take it for free. Actually, I mean, if you want a certificate, you got to pay them, but you can take the course for free. It's on EDX or something like that. You'd have to look it up.
I think there's a National Liberty Alliance is another one.
Up on it when this happened, and also, like I said, as far as I know, most states, or at least definitely in Arkansas, because I made sure I understood their law because I was going to try to help him. From the moment he is arrested, they have 24 hours to issue an official arrest warrant. They took over 25 days to issue an official arrest warrant to that incident.
So something like this would get tossed right away, correct? I mean,
exactly the motion I put in. I put in to suppress evidence based not only on that, but the fact that this cop has a tendency to pull over vehicles with out-of-state tags, which is profiling. Basically.
Can I interrupt really quick and just ask you, respectfully, are you an attorney?
No, I'm a paralegal in the state of Arkansas, though.
Paralegal, okay. I'm just curious what the background was.
Well, ever since I was a little, my dad taught me to believe in constitutional rights, and that it may not be perfect, but it's the best we have.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the good guys get away, or the good guys get in trouble, and sometimes the bad guys get away. But it's either that or we have an all-seeing, all-knowing nanny police state.
That is one thing that MC brought up, and it sounds like we're kind of pushing ourselves into kind of like a 1984-esque scenario, because like, all right, because this is the thing he brought up. It's like, all right, at that point, you basically have the state going around with mobile monitors and stuff like that. How you're going to do that, how you're going to store that, how you're going to access it and everything.
And the Stingray, what it does is it can act almost kind of like a cell tower. And it's like a liaison between you and the cell tower, and it can collect the information to a server as it bounces back and forth with phones within a certain range. What they were trying to do here in Oklahoma was do that, and people threw a hissy. They were having none of it. Now, whether or not they decided just to go quiet and do it and just didn't tell anyone, or if they actually dropped it, I don't know. But they got a lot of backlash from the people about that. People were just like, "What? No." And but the situation with this particular issue is, yeah, like I said, the date. All right, he was arrested June 6th or 9th, and his arrest warrant is signed the 30th of June. And I'm like, I mean, that right there should be enough to throw this case out. And I put that in with the motion because a lot of people don't realize you can actually file your motions yourself. You actually can. As long as you get the right forms, you can actually go and submit it to the clerk yourself and have it.
Well, at that point, you're essentially being your own counsel, which, I mean, you can totally do. Folks have done that in the past, but, I mean...
At a particular time, it was in arraignment, and, like, the trial situation, it hasn't even been fully set up. It's for November because they were trying to give them time to find a lawyer, because every lawyer wanted $15,000 or more for this. And we're like, are you fucking kidding?
What you just brought up...
to find in a U-Haul truck.
No. Well, I mean, that's a lot of joints. But the thing is, we're looking at here, it's like, all right, what you just brought up there, I mean, that's a huge thing. I'll give you an example. I had two friends. Similar situation in that they got caught with a bunch of pot on them. Pot was not legal at that time and everything. And they got into an altercation with the police that were there. One of my individuals that happened to be a fellow Semite, if you would, his dad actually happened to be a doctor. He happened to have the funds to basically put up that 15 G's for a great attorney there to fight the case there. He ended up pretty much more or less getting everything off his record and everything. Maybe he got a continuance without finding, but one of my other friends, he happened to be, and again, this shouldn't matter at all, he happened to be a Latino. He didn't quite have the money, and he ended up getting a cough on that, the continuance without a finding, but it would still come up for a number of things, even though it's supposed to be a continuance without a finding. And that sheer fact right there, that does seem to be kind of like a demographic issue in that you're talking, well, if you don't happen to have the money for an
attorney... More economic than demographic. I mean, it is demographic, but it's not racially based. That's maybe more... people of certain races don't have 15 grand lying around for an attorney, but that's got more to do.
There's going to be a distribution, and I would assume that it might skew one way.
I think
in certain respects. Again, I don't know.
We've gone off track from the original topic, which was surviving police encounters, and I think that's what we need to focus on at this point in time.
If you're not detained, they can take as long as they want to charge you. What the problem was is they did arrest him that night. They did book him. He had to be bailed
500
out.
pounds of weed in the U-Haul.
And then 20 some odd days later, then they filed the arrest warrant. This should have been done within 24 hours.
He survived though. He didn't die on the side of the road with the cop on top of him.
Wait. He wasn't arrested on site?
Yeah, he was arrested on site.
Okay.
Right
Did he fight?
The U-Haul truck. Yeah.
Did he take a swing at the cop? Did he
No.
Did he try to What's that?
He is more nonviolent and peaceful than I am.
That's exactly my point. So if people are terrified, and the media and politicians have made people terrified, the police are just out there randomly hunting black people and minorities for no reason other than the color of their skin. Now when they get pulled over, they're fighting because they think that this cop is there to kill them or hurt them or something. So if they get out of the car, they're going to get their ass kicked. When in fact, if they get out of the car and just follow the orders of the officer, 99.999% of the time, they're going to survive the encounter. They might go to jail. Maybe it's not justified. Maybe it's whatever, but you fight that later. But you live to fight another day. You don't die on the side of the road with a cop on top of you.
Okay, so basically what...
Not rocket science.
Well, maybe rocket science should be required.
Let me just respond real quick to what Chris had to say. And I think the media does have a big role to play in this, because if you just take that from a strictly mimetic perspective, it's like, all right, when you're seeing violence done against citizenry, if an overwhelming part of the time you're seeing all these stories about this black person was assaulted by these police officers, this black person lost their life and stuff like that, and you don't have other issues where somebody that maybe wasn't black, maybe they were white, maybe they were Asian, maybe they were Native American, where if you're seeing, it's like, oh, at that point, maybe, because on the other side, it's like, if you happen to maybe have less melanin in your skin, you're like, oh, I don't got to worry about the cops, so maybe you are going to be a little bit more calm and stuff like that. Whereas if all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to die if I have an encounter with a cop, if that's what some folks are taking away, that's probably going to play into certain stereotypes and certain reactions. That's going to elevate stress levels. That's going to have people respond poorly. That's the thing. If we're going to hold something as a principle, if something, because there was, and you know what, I even forget the young man's name, where there was a similar situation where two cops were actually on top of an individual. This dude just happened to be white, and they were literally making some jokes. I think he was saying similar things. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. He ended up losing his life. He ended up losing his life under a couple of officers.
Yeah.
And the sheer fact, like, if that had been news, it's like, okay, maybe that doesn't necessarily follow a certain narrative about just cops out there just to attack people by the color of their skin. But if that is what we see, and I just want to get this one point in, I think where a lot of this disparity comes in is if you do happen to be in the minority, whatever it might be, guess what? If the description is a black male and only 6% of that population in that area is that, guess what? There's a good chance you get pulled over and they were talking about someone else. And if that happens so many times, that's going to lead to, it seems to have led to resentment and everything like that. We have people marching in the streets. Are there folks out there just out there to cause destruction? Are there folks out there that are looking for a revolution? Yeah. But that's not everybody.
Right. Well, that's exactly right.
I'll tell you one thing. If I was a black guy, if I wasn't as pasty white as I am, and I got pulled over, whether or not I liked the cops or hated the cops, whatever, if I felt like I was at a higher risk because of the color of my skin, I would be 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Yes, sir. No, sir. My license is in my wallet, is in my back pocket. I'm going to reach for it now. I mean, I do that. I'm a white dude. And if I get pulled over, that's what I do. My registration's in the glove box. Do you want me to reach for it, officer? Cool.
Make sure my hands are where the cop can see it because I don't want him thinking.
Make their job as easy as possible.
Well, there's so many folks that they don't have that information. Dude, one of the reasons why I know that is we were dumb kids and we were doing not wise things. We ended up getting pulled over and we were literally just pulling into my friend's driveway. And I had an unfortunate scooter accident. Was kind of bleeding out in the back seat a little bit. But that's another part of the story. It's irrelevant here. But one of my friends, they get pulled over, and they're literally in his home's driveway. My friend gets out, and he's probably about, I don't know, like 5'8", probably like 135 pounds or so, wearing full Abercrombie stuff. He's like, what's going on? He's like, well, we've got a report of some cars driving around without lights or anything. He's like, oh. And then his passenger gets out, which happens to be my 360-pound Greek buddy wearing a Harley hat and a full leather jacket. The cop's hand instantly goes to his sidearm. He's like, get back in the car! Get back in the car! He's here. I'm just sitting in the back bleeding. They end up letting us go and everything because, there was no evidence that we had done anything or anything like that. And then my buddy's aunt was a nurse, so she treated me. Continue. I'm done with my story.
All right. Well, something I've noticed that a lot of people want to say is, well, if you just comply. Well, if you just follow orders. Well, if you just do what the brown shirts say. First off, they're supposed to try to be part of the community, okay? We're not supposed to act and have to cower and be automatically ready to cower every time an authority figure comes by. Are you kidding? The Constitution and everything else is supposed to keep our government and agencies in check, not us like that.
Humans are humans. Cops are people. And guess what?
And they need to act like it. And so do other people, yes.
Okay, there's a video online of actually there's several videos. I know different news stations did this a while back where they sent reporters in to the actual police, like use of force training scenarios where they're given like either I don't know, it's an airsoft gun or a laser gun or something like that. And they're put in scenarios where it's like, all right, what would you do? Like you've got a call, there's two guys squabbling outside of a liquor store. How do you handle the situation? And, and there's another situation. And basically, across the board, the reporters who were put in this, and of course, the reporters are not cops. They haven't spent as much time training, but they make the wrong decision because they pull the gun and shoot when they maybe shouldn't have. And they end up getting shot or attacked with a knife if they didn't do it quick enough. So I think that we first of all need to teach people to respect the police. Now, that doesn't mean that they should be able to just do whatever the hell they want. There should be checks on that whole system and reform where needed. Absolutely. However, we are talking about people who are terrified that if they get pulled over for a blinker light that's out, that the cops are just going to shoot them because they're black. That is complete and utter bullshit. There's no factual basis for that other than politicians and CNN and MSNBC saying that, minorities are targeted by police officers and, making it into a threat that it isn't. We should teach kids,
serious problem.
be respectful, follow orders, and if they do something that's against the law, if they shouldn't have been doing or whatever, you can deal with that later. But to survive that encounter on the side of the road with the police, don't fight. Because when does that work out? Can you tell me a single time where arguing with the cop on the side of the road has gotten...
Because the cop was breaking the law and he won the case.
What's that?
Well, it's been a few. The first one that comes to mind is I do believe Tupac killed a cop because the cop was doing something wrong and was killing someone, and he actually got off and was released.
Tupac?
I believe so.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. That sounds like a fun story. But
did he happen to have funds for high power counsel?
Or something. Someone shot, and they were in the right because it was a stand your ground type of place, like Oklahoma is, I believe. And so there are situations where someone has fought the cop lost, and the person did not get in trouble because the police are not always right. But since 2001, we have been conditioned for the last 20 years to just about hero worship the police to the point where we're not thinking fully straight. We're
not hero worship. It's a little bit of respect. Just this much respect. It goes a long way.
Much respect. I just treat it like stranger danger because I don't necessarily know if they're a good person or a bad person.
And they don't know who you are either.
Yeah, and so I try to avoid them. But my point nonetheless is sometimes you could be...
I didn't know MC kept up on pop culture trials.
Yeah, usually if someone says you shot a cop, usually it's a death sentence. It doesn't matter anything else. So it does, but one hell of a technicality. Anyway... Sorry, the kids are making...
Oh, no worries. We're getting ready to wrap up. We've been going almost 2 hours now. This has been fascinating. So how about this? We covered, and this is something I'm just going to try to do on more of a daily basis since it is a daily show. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a link out there to different folks there and some of the folks there in the audience. If you would like to come up, if you got a particular point you would like to make, okay, just let me know. We'll work it out. We'll do some stuff and things. We'll have some fun. We'll have a little bit of banter and everything. MC was working earlier, and if not, I would have had him up, so he would have been yelling at me for a while. It's usually entertaining.
He was yelling at me, honey.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's an equal opportunity yeller. He reminds me of like my football coach back in high school, who was our defensive coordinator, where he would just start to yell and yell, and you just see the vein on his nose get just throbbing and everything, and I'm just waiting for it to explode. And that's just what I picture when I hear him yell at me. I'm like, MC, think of your blood sugar, man. Switch to decaf. But that's enough fun, poking fun at MC. He covers a lot of things, usually... when is it now? Like 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, maybe 11 or something like that. It's usually right before, around the time I'm going to lunch at work. So, all right, final thoughts on just stuff and things going on. We'll go to you, Moira, first, and then we'll go down to Chris.
I wouldn't yell at Moira. It means it's a different thought. A different matter, though. Poor meme.
It's not untrue. So, Moira, your final thoughts on anything we've discussed or whatever you got to share.
Let's see. God, I can hear NWA in my head right now. Hold on.
Rough Riders!
It was cool to say fuck the police. Now people look at you like you're a fucking terrorist if you do. It's like, come on now. Does nobody else remember the 90s? Come on. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, I am not a huge fan of the police. I don't think they should be militarized. Because we're not. I think there's so much that needs to be fixed. It's ridiculous. God, I think the media needs to be muted at least somewhat. I mean, you got to be careful. They should be held accountable. There we go. They should be held accountable for anything they say that might actually cause a serious issue. And I don't want freedom of speech and freedom of the press to be taken. I don't, because we need these things. But unfortunately, they've turned into propaganda machines. This is a fucking huge problem. I am so humping in love with the idea of dash cams and body cams. Absolutely. Because if everybody is signing up to be in this particular situation, everything needs to be properly accounted for. Absolutely. Yes. So agree with that. I do my best to avoid the police. My dad raised me not to trust the police, but he also told me don't do stupid shit that's gonna bring the police. He also made sure I understood that. Because if you break in someone's house, I'm gonna kick your ass. You're gonna hope the police get you before I do. And I was like, damn, all right, yes sir. You know? And so, because when you live in New Orleans is probably one of the most corrupt police departments, at least at the time, ever. So my parents have seen some fucked shit. Like, I'll just say that. But I was also taught to, like, you know, not agitate or poke the bear. So I try not to. I'll talk some shit, but I'm careful about my shit talk. If I get pulled over, every time I've been pulled over, I did have my hands up here because I did not want the cop to think I'm going for a gun because, one, I'm too poor for one, and two, I don't actually want to die. Thank you very much. Anyway, because your melanin sometimes ain't going to save you, or your lack of it ain't going to save you. It just depends on that particular cop. He might not like women. He might look like his ex-girlfriend. You never fucking know. So I try not to have a tagline out. I try not to do anything to piss anybody off. I actually try to have a sense of humor. I actually do. So, because actually when I'm in a stress situation, I actually do kind of crack jokes and try to have a sense of humor, which seems to lighten the mood for everyone. Thank God. But I am still very much about the idea that we, the citizenry, are the ones that are, like, they need to remember they were the politicians, the congressmen, all the motherfuckers. They work for us. The police are not their private army. They need to remember that. And the police need to remember that too. Everybody needs to fucking remember their damn place. They need to act civilized, and then no police should be held to a lesser standard than you or me. They should be held to the same or higher, because they chose that job. I choose not to be an asshole, and I choose not to break into people's houses. So let's, add that on there. So I think everybody needs to know their place and stop being assholes to each other. Quit trying to find an excuse to fucking kill each other.
It's we the people, not we the government. Continue, sir.
People shouldn't fear their governments. Governments should fear their people.
All right then, Chris, go on.
Well, I don't know why anyone would want to be a cop. I know that Memes, you and I know a couple of people from our hometown that are police officers, and they're some of the greatest kids that I grew up with, and I think that there couldn't be better people on the police force than those people. There are bad cops, of course. I've had bad interactions with police. I've gotten bullshit tickets where the cop was a complete and total asshole to me the entire time, even though I was as compliant and friendly as I could possibly be.
Compliant.
What's that?
I was being a little bit of a dick. I said you do sound very compliant, but I do sympathize with you for being treated that way.
But here's the thing. I understand that people are people. Police officers, they put their pants on at the beginning of the day. They have to eat. They have families. They've got stress. And that's not to give them a free pass to do whatever they want. Absolutely not. I think that one of the things that should be improved is weeding out cops that float around from one department to another. They get fired for misconduct from one place. They get hired another place.
If I worked at a bank and they thought I stole and they fired me, do you think another bank would hire me? No.
Yeah. So that's definitely, there's room for reform, 100%. However, I think that we owe police officers just a little bit of respect, a little bit of, yes sir, no sir, whatever. I think that goes a long way to making an interaction good. If you don't know, if they have a report of someone that you fit the description in whatever way it is, the car you're driving, the way you look, the clothes you're wearing, the direction you're headed, and they don't know for sure whether or not you're the person who just, killed an entire family or, robbed a cash register at a gas station or whatever it is. You want to make their job easy, and hopefully in turn they make your interaction with them easy as well. A little bit of respect. You answer their questions. You comply with what they lawfully order you to do.
I gotta say, I hate the word comply.
Hang on one second.
If everybody can try to come at each other decently, I'll try to stay decent. Like if I'm walking through a store, for instance, or walking anywhere, and suddenly someone comes up behind me and grabs me, I can't guarantee I won't knock them out with my elbow because I don't know if I'm getting mugged or raped or what.
How often does that happen?
But if a cop comes up and goes, ma'am, and he's like, say 5-6 feet away, and goes, ma'am, holding up a badge, can I have a word with you for a minute? I'll be like, okay, what's up?
Let Chris finish his point.
You just tackle people without identifying yourself or knowing who they are.
That doesn't happen very often.
It happened to his brother. It happened.
I understand that. I'm saying
these
it
instances
doesn't happen very often. Out of
The-
40,
no, no, no,
40
no.
to 50 million instances where police interact with civilians.
Actually, I do want to. I want to talk to you about that. You
Yeah.
said how many interactions last year?
Well, I don't have an exact number for you because the most
I'm
recent
not going to
specific
get questions to you about the number, but you said a high number.
it was like 300 million. It was like millions.
40 to 50 was the number that I looked at because I think in 2016 or something there was
How many of those interactions was actually anything serious? Like,
The-
I mean,
the majority are. That's what I'm saying is that most of the time when someone interacts with the police, it's nothing.
Well,
It's
that's
hey,
what-
your license plate lights out. Where are you headed to? Okay, cool. Can you get it fixed?
that's just a
That
reason
kind of
to pull
stuff.
somebody over.
Was
Just
that?
to be nosy. Well, that's just a reason to pull somebody over and be nosy. Like,
Eh,
and that's part of the problem. This is why I like firefighters and EMT people better, because they show up when they're needed and leave when they're not needed. Okay.
well,
And I really feel like the police should not be out there looking for trouble or standing on a bridge.
they're
like,
not looking for trouble. I mean, they are
Well-
looking for trouble, but
over.
The thing is, we also don't give
We should have-
firefighters and EMTs like sidearms and give them the ability to arrest people. So it comes down to the Uncle Bren principle, in my opinion. With great power comes a greater responsibility.
Okay, that part, yes. And the other part sounded really strange. I was trying to decipher it. But I think there should be less interaction. I mean, unless, there's a community picnic and everybody's getting to know their neighbor. That would be a smart move. But other than that, as far as cop and civilian interaction, there should be less of it because, there's a high number. It looks like really they're just out wandering about, hassling people because they can. And nobody likes that. No, that's not going to make people feel safe. They're going to feel like they're being interrogated every time. Like,
I disagree with your perspective on that, but we can disagree. I would just end my point by saying that my interactions with the police, the times that I've needed them, not when it's getting pulled over, but when I've actually had to call and request help from the police.
oh yeah.
Thank fucking God that there's police who are going to come. Last year I came home.
I'm not saying let's get rid of all cops. I'm not quite there.
Okay, it's okay. Just let them wrap up.
Here's what I'm saying is, for example, just to give you my personal example. So I came home last year to find that my house had been ransacked. So when it broke in, I opened the front door and immediately knew this is not right.
Shit.
So, and of course I had family and stuff with me, coming out of the car. So, got them squared away. I carry everywhere I go. So I wasn't necessarily concerned like that, but the police showed up fairly quickly and they walked in, they cleared the house. I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to wonder, is there some, crazy person in, the closet in my bedroom, or, if I walk through to make sure that, the house is empty, is someone going to come out of the garage with a rifle, or what's going to happen? So the police go into those scenarios where I don't want to go in. I would much rather send someone in to do that for me.
Their own dirty work, basically. My mom used to clear the house. She'd see that the window was left open or something, and she had a little 25 thing she always carried in her pocket in New Orleans, because it's New Orleans.
Yeah.
And I remember being like 4, and she's like, stay right over there. And I would stay over there, and she would go through the house and check every room.
Yeah, so stuff like that. Stuff like last week I broke down and was in the middle of a 5-lane roadway, there's turning lanes on either side, and the alternator on my car just went dead when it was an uphill. So I'm sitting there right before rush hour, and after 10-15 minutes I got a tow truck on the way or whatever, but while I'm waiting, police pull up behind me. Awesome. The guy was totally friendly. I basically said, what's the best way to handle this situation? Where do you want, do you want me to just hang on the car? Do you want to try to, we can't push it uphill? But sure enough, this guy was like, let's see if we can stop traffic and push you out to the side. And guess what? We did. So,
Right.
I mean, was it,
Cool.
these are the instances, the 40 to 50 million that happen, and we don't hear about them. We don't see news stories. Politicians don't make big deals about them. There's no protests in
And that-
support of the
that's
cop that came and helped the
Problem, because
person.
They're giving out half-assed information about shit.
Yeah.
And
And,
that's the problem.
and then when something bad does happen, where it's like, ooh, this one really doesn't look good, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, whatever it is, people gang up instantly. They're, Sean King, the Black Lives Matter dude on Twitter.
Oh my God, Talcum X. Fuck Talcum X.
And he's demanding, you give us the names of the police officers,
I
or we just
saw
start
that.
naming
I
random.
saw that. How is his computer privileges not been revoked?
It's
Are you-
insane. It's infuriating. But
Oh,
here,
I think
it's people like him. It's people like
so much.
Kamala Harris. It's people, like the Don Lemonhead and Anderson
Oh my
Cooper. Who,
God, dude, he said something so outrageous. Even Cuomo was like, "Well, I
Yeah.
don't know about that."
Yeah.
You
and
saw
it
something
does
that
no
like,
one. It does no one any help, because now you've got helping a friend
Yeah,
move last
that
week.
kind of shit needs to be curbed. There's the freedom of speech, and then there's yelling fire in a crowded theater. Okay, there's a fucking difference.
Here's
and a
my
lot of people seem to be forgetting that. So a
Here's-
lot of stuff you and I agree on and don't agree on. But when we agree, we agree. Goddamn.
we probably agree on way more than we disagree.
We're
I'll just
on this particular subject matter, though. But yeah.
one final just anecdote. Was helping a friend move, and their next door neighbor, black dude, absolutely hates Trump, thinks he's the worst, and my friend is like the most unapologetically pro-Trump, MAGA, everywhere sort of person. So it's no secret. And they get into the friendly squabbles and stuff, whatever. So I'm helping them. We're moving stuff in and out of the house. And the kid, there was actually two kids, white kid, black kid. Not that that makes a difference really, but it sort of does. Said, came up and asked me and Michelle, like, what were you guys arguing back there about? What were you fighting about? And we kind of explained that it's just adults talking politics. Nothing to argue and just debating whatever. And that led to a little bit of a conversation, probably 5 minutes. As we're just schlepping stuff into a U-Haul truck that had no false walls with marijuana. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have found that. But the black kid said something like, started asking about, well, I heard that police, are out to hurt black people. And I mean, I'm not exaggerating. That's, maybe not verbatim exactly what he said, but that's what he was saying, was that, hey, I've been hearing that police are out there and that, they're hurting black people. And I just thought, like, damn, that's pretty sad that, like, some 7-year-old kid or 10-year-old kid, I mean, isn't that like when you're supposed to, I want to be a cop, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be an astronaut. Like, now it's like, cops are out there like killing people because of the color of our skin. I think that the people who have created this environment have done such a disservice to not just the black community, but the police and to everyone. Because look at what's happening in these cities where something unfortunate happens. And absolutely justice should be served when the police are in the wrong, and they're not always in the right. But by jumping to conclusions, by selectively picking facts on stuff and creating these stories where, she was asleep in her bed and the police just banged down the door and shot her dead. That kind of stuff does absolutely no one a favor except for Democrat politicians who want more power by campaigning on defund the police and, you're a minority and therefore the police are out to get you. Let me save you. I think that's...
I'd be like, no, you're the one that can control the police and you're not. So why
that's the funny part, is that it's always in Democrat cities.
Probably. Like, I wouldn't be surprised.
It is.
I had a 10-year-old ask me why... I had the 10-year-old ask me why the president hated him because of how he looked. And this is something apparently I think he had heard in school.
Who you are. Calm down.
I can't confirm, but...
Calm down. He doesn't even know who you are, sweetie. You're fine.
Here's the funny thing, and I'm mega MAGA. Mega MAGA. I love Trump. He's not
mega
perfect,
MAGA. Is that a newly coined term?
It's been around for a long time. Okay. Well, I've been using it for a long time. Cool. I was hoping that the Trump campaign would pick up on it. I made a sign at the South Carolina rally at the CNN Sucks. I had a bunch of signs with me, but
I still need to make my.
It would do well in the pro-Trump anime community because it sounds kind of like Super Saiyan.
That's not my world, but mega MAGA. I forget where I was going with that. Trump hating people because of the color of their skin. Absolutely the opposite. If there's a minority Trump supporter at a rally or something like that, I suspect, and I can't say 100% because I've never worked officially for the campaign, but those are the sorts of people, first of all, the Trump supporters absolutely love. Oh my God, here is someone that the media is saying that we don't like. Get over here. Give us a hug. Like, we want to be seen because we are glad that you're here with us. Welcome to the team.
So kind of like when MSNBC, the reporter, goes up to interview a random Trump supporter, the gentleman, he happened to be a black gentleman. He's like, no, I support him. It's like, well, this is not typical of the standard Trump. It's like, well, that's editorializing right there. I mean, are you probably accurate? Yeah. But here's the thing. Let people report. Let people decide. If you're going to do commentary, do commentary. But, all right, folks, we've been going for over 2 hours now. Thank you so much for everybody that's watching. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Moira, for joining me, along with Chris from the NC as well. But, again, thank you all for watching. Peace out, everybody. Be safe, and long live